Scene set up. Busy city street, luxury cars, and bystanders. A homeless girl, Lena, sits with a cardboard sign asking for help. Event goes wrong. A crowd gathers as someone accuses her of stealing from a store. She's humiliated publicly, insulted, and almost dragged away. Heroine caught in the middle. Lena pleads innocence, but no one believes her because of her appearance. Male lead enters. Adrian Kane, a cold billionaire CEO, steps out of his Rolls-Royce with bodyguards. He witnesses the scene in silence, his expression unreadable. The glass towers of Kane International loomed like guardians over the city, their mirrored surfaces catching the afternoon sun. People in suits rushed in and out of revolving doors, phones pressed to their ears, the pulse of corporate life beating strong. Until it stopped. A scream shattered the hum of business. On the marble steps outside the building, Adrian Kane, the untouchable, ruthless CEO, collapsed. "Mr. Kane!" His assistant shrieked, dropping briefcases. Bodyguards in black suits swarmed, forming a circle around their fallen master. The man known for commanding billions lay motionless, his skin pale, lips trembling with the faintest trace of breath. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. Phones whipped out, orders were barked, but panic spread like fire. A CEO who ruled like steel had just crumbled before the world, and no one knew what to do. Among the crowd gathering at the barricades was a girl no one noticed at first. Lena. Her hair hung in tangled waves, her clothes torn from nights spent on the street. A cardboard sign, "Help me," leaned against the empty bowl she had carried that morning. She had chosen this spot to beg because the rich always walked by here. But now, she wasn't invisible anymore. She pushed through the gawking crowd, her heart pounding. "What happened?" Lena's voice shook. "Move back," a guard snapped, shoving her aside. "This is none of your concern." But Lena's eyes locked onto Adrian's face, lifeless, almost gray. She had seen people die before, in the back alleys where no one came to help. This was the same look. She dropped to her knees beside him, ignoring the gasps. "He doesn't have time," she yelled. "The ambulance won't make it." Doctors in suits hovered uselessly, arguing about legal liabilities, about how they couldn't touch him without proper equipment. Everyone froze, paralyzed by fear of responsibility. Everyone except her. Lena tore off the thin scarf around her neck, pressing trembling fingers against Adrian's wrist. Faint. Weak. Fading. Her breath hitched. "He needs blood now." "What are you saying?" One of the executives sneered. "Are you even a nurse? Get away from him before you." But her voice cut like steel. "His blood type is rare. If he doesn't get it in minutes, he'll die. I can save him." A ripple of disbelief tore through the circle. "How would you know?" a guard demanded. Her hands shook as she lifted her sleeve, revealing a faded hospital band still clinging to her wrist, the last remnant of her mother's deathbed weeks ago. "I was tested. My blood matches." The world seemed to pause. Even the wind stilled. Adrian's chest gave a weak shudder, his head rolling to the side. He was slipping away. Lena's eyes burned. Memories of her mother's final moments, of doctors who turned their backs because she couldn't pay, crashed over her. She refused to watch another life vanish while everyone stood frozen by fear. "Move. Now." Her voice rose like thunder. The guards exchanged uncertain looks. Then, against all reason, they parted. Lena yanked a penknife from one of their belts before he could protest, her fingers trembling but determined. With one deep breath, she slit her palm, letting blood run freely. She pressed it to Adrian's lips, desperate, tears streaking down her dirt-stained cheeks. Gasps erupted around her. "She's insane. Stop her." But Adrian's throat convulsed. His lips, moments ago blue, twitched as the warmth of her blood touched him. His body jolted, weak but undeniable. A hush swept the crowd. Lena cradled his head, whispering fiercely, "Don't you dare die. You don't get to give up when the whole world bows to you." Live. Live, damn it. The monitors from the emergency team finally arriving crackled to life as they attached electrodes. A beep, then another. His pulse, faint but steady, returned. "He's stabilizing," a medic cried. All eyes swung back to the girl, the ragged, homeless beggar no one had spared a glance for that morning. She sat drenched in sweat and blood, clutching the most powerful man in the city against her chest. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Kane, the CEO who loved no one, stirred, his eyelids fluttering open just enough to catch a blur of her face. Their gazes met. Hers, wild with desperation. His, clouded with weakness, but pierced by something unfamiliar.
A spark.
A question. A silent tether. Then his eyes rolled back, consciousness slipping. "Get him to the hospital," the medics barked. The guards surged forward, lifting him onto the stretcher. The world exploded into flashing sirens and chaos. But even as he was carried away, Adrian's hand twitched, fingers curling faintly, as if still reaching for her. Lena sat frozen, blood dripping from her hand onto the marble steps, the crowd's whispers rising like waves. Who is she? Did she just save him? A beggar girl? She barely heard them. Her heart was still racing, her body trembling. All she knew was that she had stared death in the face and refused to let it win. And she had no idea that in saving Adrian Kane, she had just altered both of their destinies forever. Turning point. Just as the guards or shopkeeper try to push her away, Lena shouts back courageously, refusing to be treated like trash. Unexpected action. She proves her innocence by pointing out the real thief in the crowd, keen observation no one noticed. Shock factor. Everyone gasps. The thief is caught, and Lena's quick wit saves herself. Impact on CEO. Adrian, who normally despises weakness, is stirred. Her defiance and sharp eyes intrigue him. The antiseptic scent of the hospital clung to the air like a shroud. Monitors beeped in uneven rhythms, each sound a reminder that Alexander Knight, the man who commanded an empire, was slipping further away. His body's rejecting every match, the doctor muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. If we don't find a donor with his rare blood type within minutes, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Elena, barefoot and trembling in her worn sweater, stood by the doorway, invisible to the cluster of frantic nurses. She wasn't supposed to be here. She'd only come for a checkup, maybe a sandwich from the cafeteria if luck was kind. But fate had dragged her to this very corridor. She heard the doctor's next words, "B negative. Rare as diamonds. Almost impossible to." "I'm B negative," she blurted. Every head snapped toward her. For a heartbeat, silence drowned the chaos. The nurse's eyes narrowed. "You? Are you sure?" Elena lifted her chin, though her hands shook. "Test me. I don't lie about something like this." Whispers erupted. A homeless girl, offering her blood to save him? It sounded like madness. But minutes later, the impossible became truth. Her blood matched. They rushed her into the adjoining room, prepping her arm with clinical efficiency. The cold sting of antiseptic burned her skin as the needle slid in. She winced, but her gaze kept drifting through the glass window where Alexander lay, pale, motionless, tubes snaking from his body. His face was striking even in death's shadow. Strong jawline, furrowed brow, lips parted slightly as if holding on to his last breath. Elena's heart twisted. He wasn't just some stranger in a suit. He was a man clinging to the edge. "Ready," the nurse announced. The transfer began. Elena felt warmth drain from her body, flowing into him. With every passing second, she grew weaker, but she held on, whispering silently in her mind. "Take it. Take my strength. Don't give up." For what felt like forever, nothing changed. Then, Alexander's monitor gave a sharp, steady beep. His pulse strengthened. His chest rose higher with each breath. "He's stabilizing," the doctor exclaimed. Relief broke across the room like sunlight through storm clouds. Elena's head lolled back, dizziness sweeping over her. A nurse steadied her, but her eyes never left Alexander. She'd lived her whole life unseen, unwanted, surviving scraps on the streets. And yet tonight, her blood had become his lifeline. "Miss," the doctor said, his voice gentler now. "You saved him. Without you, he'd be gone." Her lips trembled. Saved him? A man like that? A man the world probably couldn't imagine living without? As if on cue, Alexander stirred. His eyelids flickered open, heavy, reluctant. Dark eyes, stormy and unyielding, met hers through the glass. Elena froze. It was just a second, maybe less. But in that second, she felt his gaze pierce straight through her, branding her soul. Confusion, weakness, something raw flickered there. And then his lashes fell, and he sank back into unconsciousness. Elena, a nurse whispered, reading her chart. That's your name? She nodded faintly, too dazed to answer properly. Well, Elena, you're his miracle now. Her miracle. The words stung and soothed all at once. But outside the room, shadows stirred. A man in an expensive suit barked into his phone, his eyes darting toward Elena with thinly veiled contempt. Yes, the girl's been identified. Homeless. Troubled background. If this leaks, it will destroy him. She didn't hear him. She only felt the hollowness in her body, the pounding in her ears. Still, her gaze returned to Alexander Knight, the dying CEO brought back by her blood. And though she didn't know it yet, she hadn't just saved his life. She had bound it to hers. Chapter 2 Purpose shows Elena's bold, sacrificial act. Establishes the moment Alexander's life is saved by her. Plants the seed of connection through eye contact. Introduces external threat, others seeing her as a scandal. Ends with foreshadowing of the chaos and bond to come. New connection. Adrian arranges to help Lena, bringing her to his company under the guise of offering a low-level job. Conflict sparks. Employees mock her for being homeless. Lena refuses pity, works fiercely, and surprises everyone with intelligence and dignity. CEO reaction. Adrian grows obsessed, not just with her resilience, but with the way she resists his control. Jealousy/ego clash. He tests her with impossible tasks, expecting her to fail, but she outsmarts situations with courage. The steady rhythm of the heart monitor filled a private hospital suite, a cruel reminder of mortality for a man who once seemed untouchable. Adrian Kane stirred, eyelids heavy, the sterile light overhead blurring into focus. His throat burned, his body felt like lead, but one image cut through the fog. Her face. The girl. The one who had pressed life back into him with her trembling, bleeding hands. He wasn't sure if it was memory or hallucination, but he remembered the fire in her eyes, a beggar girl daring him to live when the entire world had already written his obituary. A low voice broke his thoughts. Mr. Kane, you shouldn't be awake yet. Dr. Miles adjusted the foredrip, his expression carefully neutral. Behind him, Lena sat on a simple chair in the corner, her clothes replaced with borrowed hospital scrubs. She looked out of place against the gleaming marble floor and glass walls, her hair still tangled, her palms bandaged. Adrian's gaze sharpened the moment it landed on her. You, he rasped, his voice hoarse but commanding. Lena's head snapped up, startled by the weight of his attention. For a moment, neither spoke. The CEO and the beggar, two worlds colliding under fluorescent light. Finally, she stood, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. You shouldn't be talking yet. He ignored the doctor's warning and pushed himself up slightly, his eyes never leaving hers. Why are you here? Lena froze. The truth was simple. The hospital hadn't let her leave. Reporters were swarming outside, and his security team decided she was safer inside until things calmed down. But under his piercing stare, words tangled on her tongue. I didn't ask to stay, she whispered. They said it was necessary. Adrian's jaw clenched. He hated weakness, hated being indebted. And yet here was the cruel irony. The empire he built couldn't save him, but this girl, this stranger, had. His gaze hardened. What do you want from me? Money? Status? A reward for playing heroine. The sting of his words cut deep, but Lena lifted her chin. Her voice shook, but her defiance burned through. I don't want anything from you. Silence thickened. Even the doctor looked between them uneasily before excusing himself, leaving the room charged with unspoken tension. Adrian's eyes narrowed, studying her like a puzzle. He was used to people begging for his favor, clawing at his fortune. But she, a girl who owned nothing, had risked her life and still stood there unyielding. "You expect me to believe that?" His tone was cold, but beneath it, confusion lingered. Her hands trembled, but she forced the words out. "I saved you because no one else would. Not because you're Adrian Kane. Not because you're rich. But because I couldn't let another person die in front of me." For a second, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe even shame. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by his familiar mask of control. "You're either naive," he murmured, leaning back against the pillows, "or you're playing a game I haven't figured out yet." Her eyes darkened. "Not everything is a game, Mr. Kane. Some people still act without expecting something in return." The clash between them was silent, but electric. His empire had taught him that kindness was a lie, every gesture carrying a hidden price. But her gaze, it carried nothing but raw honesty, and it unsettled him more than he'd admit. A knock on the door broke the moment. One of his executives stepped in, nervously glancing at Lena before addressing Adrian. "Sir, the board is in chaos. Investors demand answers. And the press knows about her." Adrian's gaze slid back to Lena. Her posture stiffened, fear flashing across her features at the word press. "They'll tear her apart," the executive continued. "They're calling her your savior. Some are already twisting it into a scandal." A dangerous silence filled the room. Adrian's lips curved into something between a smirk and a warning. "Then let them," he said softly, eyes locked on Lena. "If the world wants a story, they'll get one." Her breath caught. She didn't understand what he meant, not yet. But the way he looked at her made her skin prickle, as if she had just stepped into a storm she couldn't escape. Adrian Kane, the man who had trusted no one and loved nothing, was now bound to her by blood. And whether she wanted it or not, he wasn't going to let go. The city skyline glimmered outside the penthouse windows, but inside Adrian Kane's office, the air was sharp with tension. Lena stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling glass, staring at the glittering world she didn't belong to. Just days ago, she had been invisible, begging for scraps on the street. Now, every newspaper headline screamed her name. The beggar girl who saved the CEO. Who is she? Heroine or scandal? She hated it. The whispers, the stares, the way strangers speculated about her blood, her motives, even her body. Behind her, Adrian's voice cut through the silence. "You've been quiet all morning." She turned, meeting his gaze. He sat at his desk, immaculate in a navy suit, but his eyes were darker than usual, sharp with suspicion. "What do you expect me to say?" she asked softly. "The world thinks I'm either your mistress or your con artist." He rose, every movement precise, predatory. "And which one are you, Lena?" Her breath caught. "You can't be serious." "I'm alive because of you," he said, his tone low, dangerous. "But people don't give without reason. Everyone has a price. What's yours?" Her hands clenched. "Not everything is about power and money." He closed the distance between them, standing so close she could see the faint scar on his jaw, the storm in his eyes. "That's where you're wrong. In my world, everything has a price." The words stung more than they should. But before she could answer, his phone buzzed. Adrian glanced at the screen, then froze. His jaw tightened, and without a word, he tossed a folder onto the table. "Explain this." Lena blinked, confused. Slowly, she picked up the folder. Inside were photographs, grainy, but clear enough. Her face, her name, and a hospital record. Her chest constricted. "How did you get this?" she whispered. "I have people who dig deeper than gossip columns," Adrian said coldly. "You're not just some beggar who appeared out of nowhere. You're," his voice sharpened, "Lena Hartwell, daughter of Gregory Hartwell." Her knees nearly gave out. The name was a ghost she had tried to bury. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Your father was the man who embezzled millions from Kane International. The man who nearly destroyed my company 10 years ago." Lena's heart pounded in her ears. Memories she had locked away came flooding back. Her father's arrest, her mother's illness, the way everything crumbled until all she had left was the streets. I didn't know, she choked. I was just a child. I lost everything because of him too. But Adrian's face was carved from stone. Convenient, isn't it? The disgraced daughter just happens to be the one who saves my life. Fate or revenge? Her eyes burned. You think I planned this? That I bled myself just to trap you? He stepped closer, his anger simmering beneath every word. I don't know what to think anymore. All I know is that you carry his blood. The cruelty of the phrase sliced through her like a blade. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. The CEO and the beggar girl, bound by blood in more ways than one, standing on opposite sides of a history soaked in betrayal. Finally, Lena's voice cracked. I saved you because I couldn't watch someone die again. Not because of your money. Not because of my father. Because I'm not him. Adrian's expression faltered for the briefest second, but then the steel returned. Get out, he said softly, dangerously. Lena's chest tightened. What? Until I know your true intentions, you will stay away from me. From this building. From my life. Her vision blurred with unshed tears, but she refused to let them fall. She lifted her chin, her voice breaking but defiant. You're wrong about me, Adrian Kane. But one day, when the truth comes out, you'll regret doubting me. She turned, every step toward the door feeling like walking through fire. And as the door slammed shut behind her, Adrian remained frozen in the silence, his hand trembling slightly as he gripped the edge of the desk. He wanted to believe she was innocent. He wanted to believe the fire in her eyes wasn't a lie. But ghosts of betrayal whispered louder. And for the first time since she saved his life, Adrian Kane didn't know if the girl who held his heart was his salvation or his ruin. The night air outside the private hospital was sharp and cold, cutting like glass. Elena pulled her worn shawl tighter around her shoulders as she leaned against the stone railing. She could still feel the sting of the needle in her arm, the dizzying weakness of blood loss lingering in her veins. Inside those gleaming walls, Alexander Knight, the man the world called untouchable, was alive because of her. Her. A homeless girl who had been invisible her entire life. Why me? She whispered into the darkness, her voice trembling. She didn't hear the footsteps at first. But then came the smooth, low voice she was starting to recognize too well, rich, commanding, yet carrying an undertone of fragility since his brush with death. Because fate doesn't make mistakes. Elena turned sharply. Alexander stood a few feet away, tall and broad even in his hospital robe, the city lights behind him casting his frame in silver outlines. His eyes, cold to others, were locked on her with something unreadable. Something that made her chest tighten. You shouldn't be out here, she said quickly, her throat dry. You almost died. You need rest. He took a step closer, ignoring her warning. I almost died, Elena. And everyone in that hospital, with their billions of dollars in equipment and their perfect pedigrees, failed me. But you saved me. His words pressed against her like a weight she couldn't carry. She shook her head. I didn't save you. I just gave what I had. Anyone would have done the same. No, he said, his voice sharpening. Not anyone. They were willing to let me go. You weren't. Do you understand what that means? Her heart pounded. His intensity was suffocating, but it also sent warmth rushing through her veins, cutting through the cold night. I don't want anything from you, she whispered. You're Alexander Knight, CEO of Knight Enterprises. I'm nobody. If people find out, they already know, he cut in. His jaw tightened, as though the words cost him something. The board knows. The media will know soon enough. The homeless girl who bled for the king of skyscrapers. Elena's stomach dropped. She wrapped her arms around herself. Then I should leave before that happens. You can't. His tone was harsh, but his eyes betrayed something else. Fear. Her brows furrowed. What do you mean I can't? You gave me your blood. Our lives are tied now. Do you think I would let you disappear back into the shadows after you carried me out of death itself? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. No, Elena. You belong to me now. Her breath caught. His words were both terrifying and thrilling. I don't belong to anyone. For the first time, she saw him falter. A shadow passed over his face, and he whispered, almost to himself, "That's what I thought too. Until you." The silence stretched between them, heavy and magnetic. Then, just as her lips parted to answer, the hospital doors banged open. Mr. Knight, a man in a crisp suit, hurried forward. His expression was grave, sweat beading on his forehead. We have a problem." Alexander's eyes snapped to him, the steel of a CEO instantly replacing the fragile man Elena had glimpsed. "Speak." The man hesitated, glancing nervously at Elena. "It's the board. They're calling an emergency session. They don't want her here. They're saying," he swallowed hard, "they're saying you were compromised. That the girl is a scam. That she targeted you." Elena's body went rigid. "What?" Alexander's face darkened like a storm. "Who dares?" "They want her gone, sir. Or they'll move to strip you of authority while you recover." The words hit Elena like ice water. She could almost feel the invisible chains wrapping around her, pulling her back into the gutter where she came from. She turned to Alexander, her voice breaking. "You see? This is exactly what I meant. Your world, it doesn't have a place for someone like me." But before she could step away, his hand caught her wrist, strong and unyielding. "They'll have to rip my throne from under me," Alexander growled, his eyes blazing. "Because I will not let them take you." Her breath hitched, her pulse a wild drumbeat. And then, in the quiet between their racing hearts, a single terrifying thought clawed into her mind. If he was willing to defy his empire for her, then what price would she pay for being the girl who saved him? The conference room at Knight Enterprises was a battlefield dressed in marble and glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering skyline, but the city's beauty was drowned out by the hostility that filled the room. Elena sat rigid in a chair near the far wall, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, her thrift store dress painfully out of place among the tailored Armani suits surrounding her. Dozens of powerful eyes flicked toward her with suspicion, disdain, even disgust. At the head of the long obsidian table stood Alexander Knight. No hospital robe now, only a razor-sharp suit, the kind that screamed authority. His face was pale from his recent ordeal, but his presence filled the room, commanding attention. "Let's get this over with," he said, his voice like steel striking glass. A gray-haired board member leaned forward, hands steepled. "Mr. Knight, no one denies your near-death experience. But this woman," his gaze sliced toward Elena, "has already become a liability. Rumors are spreading that she staged the entire thing. That she targeted you." The words stabbed Elena straight through the chest. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to stay silent, her pride the only shield she had. "She gave me her blood," Alexander cut in sharply. His eyes swept the room like fire. "She saved my life when none of you could. That makes her more valuable than every one of you combined." The room erupted in murmurs. "Alexander," another member said, her tone dripping with false sympathy, "we're only concerned about optics. The image of Knight Enterprises cannot survive with scandal attached. A homeless girl, no background, no history, no credibility, tied to our CEO? The press will crucify us." "Then let them try," Alexander snapped. His fist slammed against the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "I will not cast her aside because you fear gossip." Elena's heart hammered. His words were like fire, burning through the cold contempt surrounding her. But the weight of the stairs pressed harder, making her feel smaller and smaller. A third board member leaned back, lips curling into a cruel smile. "Tell me, Ms. Elena, why were you even at that hospital? How convenient, don't you think, that you were available at the exact moment Mr. Knight needed a transfusion? Almost as if it was planned." Gasps rippled across the table. Elena's eyes widened. "Planned? You think I—" Her voice cracked. She forced herself to steady it. "I was there because I was sick. I couldn't even afford the tests they wanted to run. I had nothing, no money, no power. Do you really think someone like me could plan something like this?" Her words hung in the air, raw and trembling. But instead of sympathy, she saw only narrowed eyes and tightened jaws. Convenient excuses, the gray-haired man muttered. Before Elena could speak again, Alexander's chair screeched back. He moved to her side in 2 long strides, his towering frame shielding her from the glares. His hand brushed her arm, subtle, grounding. "Enough," he thundered. "You will not touch her with your poison." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "If you want me gone, say it outright. But do not dare smear the woman who saved me." The silence that followed was suffocating. No one spoke. No one dared. Elena looked up at him, her heart twisting. For the first time, she saw it clearly, not just the cold CEO, not just the powerful man used to control, but someone who would burn his empire down if it meant protecting her. And that terrified her. Because she didn't belong in his world. She never would. The meeting adjourned with no resolution, only the thick fog of tension. As the board members filed out, whispering among themselves, Elena rose quickly, desperate for air. But Alexander caught her wrist. "Don't run from me." She turned, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You're fighting the world for me, Alexander. Don't you see how dangerous that is? They'll destroy you." His grip softened, but his gaze burned. "Let them try. I've built this empire from nothing before. I can do it again. But you—" His voice broke for the first time, low and raw. "If I lose you, Elena, I won't survive it." Her breath caught. The room around them seemed to blur, leaving only the two of them locked in that unbearable truth. And then, before she could answer, Alexander's phone buzzed sharply. He glanced at the screen, and his face darkened. A message. 1 line. Enough to freeze the blood in Elena's veins when she saw it over his shoulder. "We know who she really is. If you don't let her go, she dies."